Is there anything we want to talk about the King storyline, or should we get to Molly and Gus?
Let's get to Molly and Gus.
Okay. So, she pulls up to Gus's house. There's a big storm hitting that's on the radio. This is all tied in here. We find out his daughter is not at home. It's just them. He tells her the story about Malvo being outside his apartment. He didn't call in because he's all butthurt about his force not believing him and put him in an awkward situation. But he did call in the plates.
Mm-hmm.
Found out that it's an SUV owned by the King's grocery store. And Molly says, well, hey, what I want to do is go around and follow up all these leads. And Gus goes to get dressed. Interesting, Molly actually has a character note here where she fixes her hair up while he goes to get dressed. Did you notice that?
So I noticed a couple of little things that hint at the type of relationship that they have. I mean, Gus invites her, and he seems genuinely happy.
Sure.
When she accepts his, I think he invites her, not the other way around. When she accepts his invitation, in a way that is more than just colleagues.
Oh no, I definitely.
And then with the hair with Molly, it seems like she's feeling the same thing on the other side.
I've thought for a long time that he's sweet on her. I wasn't sure that she was sweet on him.
But we have so little evidence is the problem.
Right. I kind of gone back and forth, but her fixing her hair. The fact anytime a person cares about their physical appearance around someone, it shows that they're somewhat interested in them on a physical level.
Yeah.
Or they care what they think about their physical level. So I also like the conversation they had about the conversation that him and his neighbor had, the parable about the man who gave away everything and the world still was miserable. Her line about, why didn't the fella just work for a charity?
You're too rational.
No,
too rational, Molly.
But I also, and we're going to talk about the title Burden's Ass later on too. I also think that that's one of the keys to understanding the parable that we got going on. First one in a long while that's not some sort of Zen cone type of deal.
There's another conversation that they have as well in the car, the one about the rabid dog, and telling the difference between a rabid dog and a normal one. Is this in reference to Lester at this point? I mean, they're certainly going to investigate Lester. Is he the rabid dog that you can now tell from the regular dog?
Well, I think that's one of the things is that a rabid dog you can tell from a regular dog.
And you can't go back either.
He's lamenting that these two-faced people, you can't necessarily pick them out of the crowd.
Sure.
I do think he's talking about partially, I mean, obviously he's talking about Lorne, but I also think he's talking about Lester because that two-face moment, and then literally Lester has two faces in this episode.
Sure, and this plays into the stuff we've talked about with Lorne earlier, that he is kind of training Lester. And if Lester is coming up in Lorne's image, we know that Lorne is two-faced and that he can pretend to be a pastor, and he can also be this criminal. Lester's developing those same traits.
Is he? I don't know that you can say he's training Lester. I think that
yes, I misspoke.
He's catalyzing.
Yeah, he's guiding Lester.
I don't think he cares one way or another what Lester does. It's just that maybe that's one of his things is he just gives these sparks to situations and then sees what happens. And Lester just happens to be a piece of dry fucking kindle that is just going up like a house on fire. We also find in their various conversations that Gus, surprise, surprise, never even wanted to be a police officer.
No.
He wanted to be a postman.
Sure.
He ought to ask the Duluth postman how safe that job is. If you never have to deal with rabid dogs. No, you still have to deal with them as a postal worker. Because he just wanted to see the same people every day. He wanted to give people good news. He wanted to give them Christmas presents and packages they're expecting. He's got this really Pollyanna view of what it's going to be a postal worker. But I thought that is interesting from an origin story for his perspective. The only reason he's a cop is because there was a hiring freeze at the post office, and he ended up squeaking, and he was just as surprised as anybody to be made into a cop. Their involvement with the storm of the century is a little bit darker. They're in a cafe because they went to show up at the Grocery King's groceries company, and he wasn't there, obviously, because he was on his way to the parking garage. So they went to a cafe to kind of talk things out, get some coffee. They hear these shots fired from the situation going down a spray tan. They also hear shots fired from. I think they stay. That don't. They get out. So this is like all
the
the
cops
same
going
kind
by to respond to the shootout at the house.
But they walk out and they said it's like World War III out here. And then
because Numbers and Wrench are shooting up Lorne in the street, just right down the road.
Yeah, because Lorne hadn't gotten very far on his way to the parking garage.
No.
So this is literally happening kind of in the same neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
Molly runs off to investigate. Gus says, "Wait, we need to call in for backup." Kind of pointing to, we like Molly. She's definitely a better police officer than anybody else in her squad, but she's not perfect. She should have called in for backup. She should never gotten separated from her partner in these whiteout conditions.
Yep. And it leads to her getting shot.
So let's talk about that. She goes off into the cold.
Mm-hmm.
We stick with Gus on his POV, and he's panic-stricken. He hears Molly say something like, "Police officer, stop," and then you hear several shots exchanged.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of a lull, and there's a Lawrence of Arabia moment where you're kind of squinting at the screen, and you can't see if there's maybe a dark shape. He screams, "Halt!" Literally
immediately
fires. A half second later, and we see a shape drop.
Yeah.
He goes to investigate, and it's poor Molly.
He shot her.
Don't see any blood. There is no blood.
I don't see any blood. I see a hat flap. I see a jacket flap. No blood, which to me says, I think we can all assume that Molly is not dead at this point.
She's and every police officer past probably 1999 wears some sort of bulletproof vest, which stops most small arms fire.
Sure. So I think what happened here, she got shot in the vest.
I think so,
Probably knocked the wind out of her, or maybe knocked her unconscious,
just
and
pain,
she dropped.
Because that, you
can crack ribs, you can severely bruise.
Certainly, you're still getting shot.
Yeah.
It's just not penetrating you.
Yeah.
But it's going, so you can, like you said, break ribs. You could pass out from the pain. There could be significant bruising.
Yep.
Another theory I saw was that Wrench is the guy that shot her, and she's kind of doing the I've gotten shot stagger. And Gus shoots at her, but completely misses. I mean, what's the odds that he's going to hit center of mass at that range in those conditions with him pissing his pants?
Sure.
And then she just drops coincidentally, and then we're going to find out next episode that ballistics are going to prove that it was actually Wrench. Mm-hmm. Maybe Molly actually managed to wing Wrench as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to say wing Wrench.
Wing Wrench. We'll see.
All right.
As of now, I just don't believe that she's dead.
There's no way she can be dead.
Yeah.
There's only 3 episodes left to go, right?
Yes.
Or wait. Yeah. There's 4 if this was the 6th episode.
Oh, yeah. 4, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Because I don't know that this show can survive without her. She's by far the most likable character and the most adept character. If she dies next episode, I have a bad feeling about anything getting resolved. Because I've seen the Duluth PD's best. I've seen the Bemidji's finest. Yeah. They're not up to the task.
And, well, she's from Bemidji, so she is Bemidji's finest.
Oh, I guess. That's true. But I'm saying remainder.
The rest of them, yeah.
The set of Bemidji's finest minus Molly.
See, that's an interesting point, too, because she comes to Bill in a completely different tone this time. She understands the mistakes she's made before. She adapts to that, and she gets Bill to finally listen to her. Because she did the same thing.
In the previous episode, you mean?
Yeah. She's learning from her mistakes.
Right on.
Which shows me that she's actually good at her job, whereas these other people are not.
Okay. Well, I think we're ready to talk about the other big deal in this episode, Lester.
Okay.